If you hit him again, I'll call the police and say you're committing domestic violence, my ex-wife said after cheating with my own employee. I spent 2 years planning and turned their celebration into a humiliating public downfall. 2 years after my divorce, the police knocked on my door. They had come for a hit-and-run case. I had spent exactly 730 days setting the stage for this moment. Now the police were here. This meant that the fish in my net was finally about to jump onto the shore by itself. It was Tuesday morning at 9 in the morning. The Mexico City sunlight was pouring in through the windows of my dilapidated living room. I was sitting on the worn-out sofa, pretending to browse an old-fashioned magazine, waiting for that inevitable knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. 3 urgent knocks broke the morning silence. I got up and walked to the door, deliberately slowing my pace, making sure my appearance was sufficiently disheveled. A 2-day unshaven beard, a wrinkled shirt with beer stains that I had purposely spilled the night before, and carefully crafted dark circles under my eyes. I had even sprayed some alcohol on myself to smell like a drunk. These details were all indispensable props in my performance. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers standing outside, just as I had planned. I adjusted my expression to look confused and scared, and then opened the door. "Mr. Declan Harwell," the tall officer asked, his eyes with professional scrutiny. "Yes, it is me." I rubbed my eyes pretending to be confused. "Is there a problem, officer?" "We are investigating a hit-and-run case," the shorter officer said, opening his notebook. "The night before last, around 8 in the evening, a white Toyota pickup truck registered to your company hit a pedestrian on Mariana Street in the South District and fled the scene. The license plate number matches one of your company's vehicles." My eyes widened instantly, my expression changing from confusion to shock and anger. "What? Who dares to use my company's truck to run someone over? This is outrageous." I raised my voice, even punched the wall once, showing both shock and indignation. Just then my phone rang. I looked at it with feigned surprise. It was Victor calling. The timing of this call was naturally part of my careful plan. "Excuse me, officers. It is my company's sales manager," I told the policeman and then deliberately pressed the speakerphone to answer. "Hello, boss. Are you feeling better today?" Victor's voice was full of false concern. "Do not worry about the company's affairs. I have everything under control. Remember that big client I mentioned yesterday? Mr. Costanos is very interested. I want to meet with him again today. Oh, by the way, I might need to use the company's new pickup truck. The client likes to go for drives." I interrupted him. "Victor, there are policemen at my house right now saying that one of the company's trucks ran someone over. Do you know anything about this?" There was a noticeable 1-second pause on the other end of the line. I could almost imagine Victor's expression changing from complacency to horror. When someone has done something wrong, what they fear most is suddenly hearing that the police have knocked on their door. This was exactly the reaction I wanted to make him panic and expose his flaws. "What? That is absurd," he said in a deliberately raised tone, although the nervousness in his voice could not be hidden. "It must be a mistake. Do not worry, boss. I will go see what is happening right away." "What car are the officers looking for?" "I will go check the warehouse. White Toyota pickup truck, hit and run on Mariana Street." I answered briefly, watching from the corner of my eye as the 2 officers carefully recorded our conversation. "Understood. I will sort it out right away. You rest well. Do not think too much. Leave this small matter to me." Victor hung up the phone. I turned to the police and shrugged. "Excuse me. I have not been feeling well lately. Most of the company's affairs are handled by my sales manager, Victor. He is a capable young man. At least he used to be." I deliberately changed my tone. "Could you accompany me to the company to take a look? I will definitely cooperate with the investigation and catch the culprit." The tall officer nodded. "Of course, Mr. Harwell. We were just preparing to visit your company to investigate the situation." "I will change my clothes right away," I said, turning around and walking back to the room. After making sure the police could not see my expression, I allowed myself a cold smile. The prey had already begun to panic, and this was just the beginning. 10 minutes later, I put on a clean but still wrinkled shirt. I drove my dilapidated 2005 sedan Ford, taking the police to the company's warehouse in the suburbs. Along the way, I deliberately rambled, telling the story of how I went from being a small fruit farmer to an avocado exporter and how I was devastated after my divorce. "I used to have a nice car too," I said with self-deprecation, patting the steering wheel. "But after the divorce, everything changed. You know, some wounds cannot be healed by time." The officers nodded politely. They must have noticed my old vehicle and my disheveled appearance. This was exactly the image of a loser that I had carefully cultivated for the past 2 years. When we arrived at the company's warehouse, Victor was already waiting there. In stark contrast to me, he was wearing a handmade dark blue suit that was worth at least 60,000 Mexican pesos. He was wearing shiny Italian leather shoes and a Rolex on his wrist that I had given him. Of course, he did not know it was just a high-quality fake that was worth barely a few thousand pesos. This was a promotion gift I gave him 2 years ago. Seeing him proudly wear a fake watch every day was one of my few pleasures. Boss, you should not have come yourself, Victor approached, pretending to pat my shoulder with concern. Then he turned to the police and politely introduced himself. Victor Morales, the company's sales director. What can I help you with, officers? We need to inspect all the company's vehicles, the tall officer said, especially the white Toyota pickup truck. Of course. Victor seemed extremely cooperative. All the vehicles should be in the garage. I will take you to see them right away. Santos, I suddenly shouted loudly, interrupting Victor's performance. Come here. A man in his 60s with a wrinkled face came out of the office. Santos's eyes were cloudy but sharp. He looked at me, then at Victor, and asked, "What is it, boss?" The police say that one of our cars was used in a hit and run. Do you know what happened? I asked directly. Santos shook his head and answered seriously. No, I do not. All the vehicles should be here. It must be a mistake, Victor interrupted. Our fleet is small, just a few trucks, all under strict management. We all went to the garage. After checking, we quickly discovered that a white truck was missing. I put on a surprised expression. This is impossible. Who would steal our car? It must have been stolen, Victor interrupted immediately. I saw this car here when I left yesterday at 5 p.m. I will report it to the police right now. Who have you let drive this car recently? The shorter officer asked, staring at Victor. I pretended to think. I need to check the logbook. Santos, bring me the vehicle usage records. Santos quickly brought the logbook and opened it to the most recent page. The last person to use this car was Mr. Victor 3 days ago, which was the afternoon of the incident. The record shows that he was entertaining the client, Mr. Costanos. Victor's face changed slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. Yes, I borrowed it briefly, but I returned it that same afternoon at 6, parked in that same spot. I have been busy with clients these last 2 days and have not used it since. Are you sure you returned it at 6? The tall officer pressed. Of course, Victor said confidently. I remember it clearly because I was in a hurry for dinner. How strange. I deliberately intervened. Santos, you were at the warehouse all day yesterday, right? Did you see this car? Santos shook his head. I did not see this car yesterday. I thought Mr. Victor had borrowed it again. Victor's expression became noticeably more nervous. I did not borrow it again. Maybe someone stole it. We should call the police. We need to talk to you in detail, Mr. Victor, the tall officer said. Also, we would like to review the warehouse's surveillance footage. Of course, Victor agreed immediately, but I noticed his eyes flickered. However, we only have surveillance at the main entrance. The back entrance camera broke a long time ago and has not been repaired yet. This was exactly the reaction I wanted. What Victor did not know was that I had installed a hidden camera at the back entrance a year ago. The recordings were transmitted directly to my private server, not part of the company's monitoring system. No problem. Let's check the main entrance recordings first, the officer said. Santos took the police to review the surveillance footage. After they left, Victor approached and whispered to me, "Do not worry, boss. I will take care of this small matter. Go back and rest. Leave this to me." I nodded with empty eyes like a loser crushed by life. Okay, you take care of it. I am not feeling well today. I will go back first. Victor patted my shoulder with that condescending attitude that I disliked, but I still managed a grateful smile. Thanks, Victor. I do not know what I would do without you. This sentence was true, just with a completely different meaning. Before I left, I told Santos, "Get me the spare key to the warehouse." I think I lost mine. Santos understood and handed me a key, whispering, "Everything is arranged." I drove away in my car, and after confirming that no one was following me, I made several turns. Finally, I headed directly to an abandoned cannery in the suburbs. This is where my father once worked, now abandoned for years, and it had become my secret base. I circled the back of the factory area and parked behind a row of abandoned cargo containers, making sure it could not be seen from the outside. After getting out, I immediately took off that wrinkled shirt and put on a clean black t-shirt and jeans. I put on sunglasses and a baseball cap. My overall appearance looked much fresher. This was the real me, not that pathetic wretch crushed by life. After checking that no one was around, I approached a dilapidated-looking wall where there was an ordinary-looking electrical box. I took out the key, opened the electrical box, revealing a combination lock inside. I entered 6 digits. Celeste's birthday plus the day we got married. An ironic combination. A cement panel on the wall slid silently, revealing a passage. At the end of the passage was my command center, a room of about 30 square meters, simply decorated, but fully equipped. A huge relationship chart hung on the wall with photos of Celeste and Victor in the center. Red lines and sticky notes surrounded it detailing their financial transactions, call records, meeting places, and other information. In one corner of the room were several high-performance computers and monitors displaying various data and surveillance recordings. Just as I entered the room, Rico came out of the inner room. Rico was my distant cousin, 26 years old, thin and sharp-eyed. Having grown up on the streets of Mexico City, he had survival instincts and an awareness of danger that ordinary people could not imagine. 3 years ago, I bailed him out of jail after a street fight, and since then he had been absolutely loyal to me, becoming my most capable assistant. Boss, how did it go with the police? Rico handed me a cup of hot coffee and asked, better than expected. I took the coffee and sipped it, savoring that long mist aroma. Victor is already in a panic. He made up a clumsy lie saying the car was stolen. How stupid, Rico laughed. The surveillance captured everything clearly. Stupid people often hold themselves in high esteem. I walked to the screen and put on a surveillance video. Look how this fool is digging his own grave. In the recording, Victor was driving the company's white pickup truck out the back entrance of the warehouse. The timestamp showed 7:48 p.m. on the night of the incident. A young man, dressed flamboyantly, was sitting in the passenger seat. I recognized him as Trevor Costanos, the spoiled son of a local rich man who had recently become Victor's big client. Your plan is flawless, Rico admired. Who would have thought that speed demon, Trevor, would be so easy to hook? Human nature is very easy to exploit, I said, especially that of those arrogant fools. In fact, this hit and run was not accidental. A week ago, I found out that Victor was going to entertain Trevor, this important client. Through my intelligence network, I discovered that Trevor had two great hobbies, luxury cars and street racing. So I had Rico arrange an accidental meeting in a bar that Victor frequented. That night, Rico drove a borrowed BMW M5 and caught Trevor's attention at the bar's entrance. During their conversation, Rico deliberately mentioned a newly built road in the suburbs that was perfect for high-speed driving. Then he intentionally provoked him with comments like, some people only drive their dad's car and never dare to really race. Real Mexican men rely on their own skills, not their dad's money. Trevor took the bait. He took Victor with him, insisting on going to that road for an impromptu race. To please this potential big client, Victor borrowed the company's truck, and I had already made preparations on that road. I had found Sofia beforehand, a coffee shop waitress, and paid her 100,000 Mexican pesos to accidentally appear on the road at a specific time and place. Of course, to ensure her safety, we made thorough arrangements, including an ambulance and a private doctor station nearby. As expected, the braggart Trevor, drunk, and Victor driving at high speed hit Sofia on a curve. In their panic, they did not stop to check, but quickly fled the scene. How is Sofia? I asked Rico. Minor injuries. She was already discharged, Rico replied. She is grateful for our arrangement and said this was the easiest money she has ever earned. Her performance was also quite good. She has already given a statement to the police saying she could identify the hit-and-run driver. This is just the beginning, I said, walking to the relationship chart and taking out a red pen, writing hit and run and the date next to Victor's photo. Now comes the real moment of the hunt. I put on another video. This one showed Victor in a repair shop fixing the front dent of the vehicle and paying the mechanic in cash. How did you get the workshop recordings? I asked. I spent 20,000 Mexican pesos to bribe the mechanic, Rico said. He accepted immediately and even voluntarily provided close-ups of Victor giving him the cash. That guy did not like Victor's arrogant attitude either. Very good, I nodded. With this evidence, Victor's hit-and-run charge is inescapable. But we are in no hurry to provide this evidence. Let's let him suffer in fear for a while. I turned to the computer and opened an email. Look, the invitation has been sent from the United States. On the screen was a letter of invitation from Freshmart inviting avocado suppliers from Latin America to participate in a tender. The contract was worth up to 200 million Mexican pesos over 5 years. This was a huge temptation that no avocado exporter could refuse. Derek's performance must be convincing, I emphasized. Victor needs to fully believe that this is real. Derek will not disappoint you, Rico said. He owes you more favors than anyone. He said this time he will play an American bastard. You know, making Victor hate him, but still having to flatter him. I nodded with satisfaction. Derek was an old friend of mine, now working for a major U.S. supermarket chain. 10 years ago, when he was just an obscure purchasing assistant, I took a risk and gave him a large order, helping him establish himself in the company. Now, that favor was paying off. There is one more thing, I told Rico. Go contact Gutierrez. Gutierrez, rich, frowned. That snake boss. Dealing with him is dangerous. Do not worry, I will not contact him directly, I explained. I need you to go to that cigar bar he frequents and casually reveal that Victor is raising a large sum of money recently, preparing to secure a multi-million-dollar contract. Also hint that Victor will hold a party at the Lion Hotel next Friday. Rico suddenly understood. I see. Gutierrez gets excited about money like a shark that smells blood. He will definitely look for Victor on his own. Exactly. I smiled disdainfully. People's greed and fear are the easiest weaknesses to exploit. Victor and Gutierrez have both. During these 2 years, I had built a solid intelligence network. Santos was my eyes, responsible for monitoring all movements within the company. Victor did not know that Santos's son had been seriously ill, and I had covered the full 1,600,000 Mexican pesos in medical expenses and helped him contact specialists in the United States. Santos's loyalty to me was more important than his own life. Every week, Santos reported detailed records to me under the guise of inventory reports. What day did Victor privately divert a batch of grade A fruit and replace it with grade B fruit? What day did he and Celeste have private conversations in the office? And for how long? Which clients did he secretly steal? This information formed the basis of my revenge plan. Rico was responsible for external information gathering. He mingled in the bars and clubs that Victor frequented, making friends with bartenders and waitresses. He collected extensive information about Victor's bragging, his ostentation, and even his flirtations with other women. Sometimes, when I woke up at night, I could still smell that disgusting mixture of alcohol and betrayal from that day in the bedroom. That feeling had not faded one bit in 2 years. 2 years ago, on a Thursday, I was supposed to attend a 3-day supplier conference in Monterrey, but the conference was suddenly canceled, and I returned home early. When I opened the bedroom door, I saw the most unacceptable scene of my life. My wife Celeste and my protege Victor were having sex in my bed. The room stank of alcohol and betrayal. What was even more disgusting was that the company's financial statements and customer lists were scattered on the bedside table. Not only were they betraying me physically, but they were conspiring to steal the business I had built with a decade of hard work. I completely collapsed. I pounced, grabbed Victor by the neck, dragged him out of bed, and punched him in the face. Victor's nose bled, but he did not fight back. He just cowered to the side. Celeste screamed and wrapped herself in the sheet. However, when I was about to continue attacking, Celeste suddenly grabbed her phone and shouted, "If you dare to hit him again, I will call the police and say you are committing domestic violence. I have evidence." She pointed to the documents on the bedside table. "These are all the unequal agreements you forced me to sign. Everyone knows you have been mentally unstable lately. I have recordings, evidence that you have threatened me." At that moment, I coldly realized that they had prepared in advance and had laid a trap. If I made a scene on the spot, not only would I have lost emotionally, but they would also tarnish me legally and socially. I might even lose control of the company. I stopped staring deadly at Celeste's face that I once loved deeply. The strangeness and calculation in her eyes chilled my heart. 12 years of marriage completely collapsed. At that moment, I thought I knew her, but now it seemed I had never really known her. "Get out of my house," I said coldly to Victor. "Tomorrow I will be waiting for you at the company for an explanation." Victor hastily got dressed and left, but not before taking those documents with him. Celeste started to cry, trying to explain that this was just a momentary mistake. They were just discussing company matters, and she hinted that if I did not pursue it, our marriage could still continue. But I had seen everything. This was not a momentary impulse, but a carefully planned betrayal and conspiracy. I left the house and sat in my car all night thinking about how to deal with this crisis. When the first rays of dawn shone through the car window, I made a decision. I would not explode immediately. I would not let anger cloud my judgment. I would wait, observe, collect every piece of evidence until the day I could destroy them completely. I understood that to reclaim what belonged to me, I first had to die. Let them think I had collapsed, that I had become a pitiful wretch at their mercy. Then, when they were at their proudest moment, I would deliver a fatal blow. This was my plan. Let them think I was already defeated. Let them expose their flaws and their arrogance. As we Mexicans often say, the snake in the grass is the most lethal. Disguising myself as a loser was my perfect camouflage. The divorce agreement was signed quickly. Surprisingly, Celeste did not ask for much. She only demanded the basic division of property and even waived any claim to the company. I knew she and Victor must be planning to control the company by other means. After the divorce, I moved to a small apartment in the suburbs and began my performance of decadence. I deliberately became careless. I started drinking heavily. I seemed distracted during important meetings with clients. I made the company's performance seem to deteriorate. Every time Victor reported to the board about the declining performance, I just nodded silently, as if I had lost interest in everything within the company. Several rumors about me spread quickly. Some said I had had a mental breakdown, others that I was an alcoholic, and others that I had depression. I deliberately placed empty bottles in the company's bathroom trash cans for the cleaning staff to discover and spread the word. I even deliberately appeared drunk at an important meeting, rambling senselessly to a key client. Finally, Victor elegantly helped me out of the situation. Even my old friends began to worry about me. They invited me to dinners advising me to recover, but I declined, all with the excuse of my poor health. In fact, I only trusted a few people: Santos, Rico, and my old partner, Ernesto. Meanwhile, Victor and Celeste became increasingly bold. Victor began to embezzle company funds privately, to falsify contract terms, and even to sign documents in my name. He replaced several old employees with his own cronies and began various forms of harassment against the remaining staff. In a general meeting, Victor even directly announced the cancellation of year-end bonuses, citing the company's operational difficulties. This caused strong dissatisfaction among the employees, but in his judgment, these people were just pawns that could be replaced at any time. The most infuriating thing was that he began to use various excuses to reduce the purchase prices to the farmers. He threatened that if they did not cooperate, he would cancel their partnerships. These farmers were mostly my lifelong partners, and their livelihoods depended heavily on our company's orders. Seeing them being intimidated, I wanted to immediately expose Victor's true face, but I knew it was not yet time. Celeste frequently appeared in luxury places, accompanying Victor to meet with clients, acting as the company's first lady. She even posted some suggestive photos on social media, hinting that I was already a wreck. She and Victor were creating a new future. They thought they had defeated me and that I had become a helpless loser, but they did not know that each of my failures was carefully planned to make them fall deeper into arrogance and greed. Just as we were discussing the plan, my phone rang. It was Santos calling. "Boss," his voice was low. "The police just reviewed the main entrance surveillance and found nothing unusual." Victor claimed that the vehicle might have been stolen and voluntarily offered to go to the police station for questioning. "Very well," I said. "Let him go. Remember to tell the police that the company's back entrance surveillance is broken, but that we actually have backup recordings. When the time is right, I will personally deliver the evidence to the police." "Understood," Santos replied briefly and hung up. I told Rico, "Victor will go to the police station. He will fabricate a story about the vehicle theft. The police will not have enough evidence to arrest him for now, but this pending case over his head will make him more anxious to escape his current situation. Now is the time to move on to the next step. I will contact those clients that Victor stole," Rico said. "I will tell them that the Harwell company is about to go bankrupt and can no longer provide services, and I will wish them a happy cooperation with Victor." "Exactly. This will make them suspicious and start to doubt Victor's abilities," I added. "At the same time, I need you to spread the word in the farmer circles that my company is only worth 4 million pesos. Mexicans, and could collapse at any time." I took out a falsified asset evaluation report from the drawer. This is a fake report I had made. Make sure it reaches Victor and Celeste. This way they will think that with 4 million pesos they can buy the entire company. A temptation they will not be able to refuse. "One more thing," Rico said. "What about Gutierrez? He is not someone to be played with." Gutierrez was a notorious local loan shark, infamous for his brutal methods. It was said that he once made someone who did not pay their debts disappear and the body was never found. All Mexicans knew his rules. Borrowing money is easy, paying is difficult. Once you get involved with Gutierrez, you are finished unless you pay in full. If Victor really goes to him for a loan, he is digging his own grave. I said coldly, "Will he really go to see Gutierrez?" Rico was somewhat doubtful. "That is a real snake." I smiled disdainfully. "Victor will do anything for money. According to our intelligence, he has already invested all his savings, about 8 million Mexican pesos. Celeste has 10 million pesos from her parents' inheritance, but they are still short 6 million pesos. I pointed to the invitation on the screen. "Look, in this tender document I specified that 16 million pesos are needed as a performance bond, plus 4 million to acquire my company. That is a total of 20 million pesos. Believe me, Victor will find a way to raise this money." Rico nodded. "I hope he does not disappoint us." "He will not," I said confidently. "Greed will cloud his judgment. Besides, I have prepared a special surprise for him." In the following days, our plan began to unfold step by step. First, Victor effectively went to the police station for questioning, claiming that the vehicle was stolen. He had reported the theft, but the report had mysteriously disappeared. The police were skeptical, but took no action for lack of direct evidence. Meanwhile, I had Rico contact several key figures in the industry to spread the news of my company's impending bankruptcy. Soon, this news spread throughout the avocado circle of Mexico City. Victor believed it completely and became even more arrogant within the company. He called an emergency meeting, and under the pretext of a restructuring, he fired 3 high-level employees. This included an old accountant who had followed me for 10 years, citing the optimization of the human resources structure. He also forced all employees to work overtime to complete a large, completely non-existent order. These actions earned him countless enemies within the company. Employees began to talk privately, and some secretly went to Santos to ask about my situation. They hinted that they hoped I could return to take command. This was exactly the effect I wanted to let Victor lose the support of the people in his arrogance, accumulating power for my final counterattack. Just as Victor was gloating over his cleverness, he received the exclusive invitation from Freshmart. As I expected, he immediately excitedly told Celeste this news through our recording equipment in the company's conference room. I heard the whole conversation. "Honey, this is our chance," Victor said enthusiastically. His voice went up an octave with excitement. Freshmart is one of the largest organic food chains in the United States, and they want to sign a long-term supply contract with us. "Really? That is fantastic." Celeste's voice was full of joy, and she asked eagerly, "How much is the contract?" "At least 200 million Mexican pesos. Executed over 5 years," Victor almost shouted. "This means we will have at least 40 million pesos in net profit annually. We can use this money to buy the best villa in the city and live the life you have always dreamed of. Do you know that villa with a pool in Barrio Alto? We can buy it outright." But Celeste's voice suddenly became worried. "Do you have enough supply capacity? Declan's farmers are all very loyal. They will not easily cooperate with you. Do not worry. I have already stolen several clients from him." Said Victor confidently. "Besides, that loser Declan is almost bankrupt and his suppliers desperately need new outlets. As long as I offer a higher price, they will line up to find me. Honestly, I do not even need those old farmers. With this money I can buy directly from large farms, better quality, more stable prices." "Oh, honey, you are so smart." Celeste's voice was full of admiration. "I knew you were much better than Declan. He is so stupid. He does not deserve your talent at all." Listening to them blatantly belittle me, I clenched my fists, but quickly relaxed. Anger would only cloud judgment, and now I needed calm and patience. "So, how much initial capital do we need?" Celeste asked, her voice containing both anticipation and concern. Victor paused. "Around 20 million pesos. We need 4 million to acquire the remains of Declan's company, plus 16 million as a contract performance bond." 20 million pesos, Celeste exclaimed. "My God, where will we get so much money?" "I already have 8 million, said Victor. "And the rest you can get. Have you not always said that your parents left you an inheritance?" After a long silence, Celeste finally spoke. "I only have 10 million. We are still short 6 million. I will find a way," said Victor confidently. "For our future there is no difficulty I cannot overcome." Listening to this conversation, I could not help but smile disdainfully. They were exactly as I predicted, blinded by the temptation of huge profits, beginning to raise funds desperately. Victor did not even know that the news that the Harvel company was only worth 4 million pesos was deliberately leaked by me. A week later, Victor accepted Freshmart's video interview. My friend Derek perfectly played a stern American acquisitions director. He wore an impeccable dark blue suit and gold-rimmed glasses. His expression was as serious as if he were attending a funeral. In the video conference, Derek made several harsh demands on Victor. "Mr. Morales, we need to ensure that every avocado meets the strictest food safety standards in the United States. Any pesticide residue will result in the rejection of entire shipments. We need you to complete the entire process, from harvesting to shipping, in 72 hours. Any delay will result in huge penalties. The 16 million pesos performance bond must be transferred to our designated third-party escrow account before the contract is signed. This is a non-negotiable condition. We will send quality inspection teams to be permanently stationed in your warehouse. You will need to provide them with office space and accommodation at your own expense." These demanding requirements did not make Victor suspicious. On the contrary, they convinced him even more that this was a real big contract. In his judgment, the more difficult the client, the more valuable the contract. After the video conference, Victor immediately went to see Celeste. They celebrated in a private room of a luxury restaurant. "Everything went perfectly," said Victor excitedly, raising his champagne glass. That American was rude, but he was obviously satisfied with our quote. He said we could sign next week. "Excellent." Celeste raised her glass to celebrate, "But we are still short 6 million pesos. Do you have any ideas?" Victor's expression became serious. "There is a way, but it is very risky. I know a loan shark named Gutierrez. He can provide this money, but the conditions are harsh. 1 million pesos of interest up front, 10% monthly interest for the first month. If you are late, an additional 5% cumulative interest every week. This is crazy, Celeste gasped. If we cannot pay, the consequences would be unthinkable. You have forgotten the Freshmart contract. Victor lowered his voice. After signing, the first advance payment will be 40 million pesos. We can immediately pay off the loan and make a large profit. Celeste still hesitated. But if something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong, said Victor firmly. This is our chance. As long as we overcome this obstacle, we can live the life you have dreamed of. Do you trust me? Finally, Celeste nodded. It is okay if you think this is the best way. As Rico predicted, Gutierrez was really interested in this news. The next day, one of his men proactively approached Victor, offering to help solve the financing problem. Victor enthusiastically accepted and agreed to meet the next day to discuss the details. That afternoon, Victor went to Gutierrez's office in the South District. It was a place that seemed to sell lottery tickets, but was actually his loan shark headquarters. In Gutierrez's office, Victor signed the loan contract and pressed his bloody thumbprint. This was a symbol in the Mexican underworld, indicating a willingness to pay with one's own life if one defaulted. Gutierrez told him in a hoarse voice, "Remember, in my business there is no such word as bankruptcy, only payment. 1 month, not a day more. Otherwise, face the consequences." Victor tremblingly accepted all the conditions. This meant that in 1 month he needed to pay 6.8 million pesos. After deducting the upfront interest, he actually received 5 million pesos plus 1.8 million in interest. After raising all the funds, Victor began to prepare for his victory party. He rented the most luxurious ballroom in the city's Leon Hotel. He invited everyone in the industry, including local financial reporters. He planned to announce the acquisition of my company at the party and show off his golden contract with Freshmart. The party was scheduled for Friday night at 7 p.m. The afternoon before, Victor came to my office with a face full of false sympathy. "Declan," he said sitting in front of me, "I know this is difficult for you, but business is business. I am willing to acquire your company for 4 million pesos. Considering the current situation, this is the best offer I can give you." I pretended to be dejected, lowering my head with my hands trembling slightly, as if I were repressing a great emotion. Then I slowly raised my head and said in a hoarse voice, "Victor, you know what? When I founded this company 12 years ago, I only had 100,000 pesos of initial capital and the support of 3 farmers. Now, well, let it be for a million." I signed the transfer agreement with trembling hands. Then I closed my eyes as if I could not face this reality. Victor could barely hide the complacency on his face. He stood up and patted me condescendingly on the shoulder. "Declan, I will invite you to tomorrow night's party. Although the company has changed hands, you will always be our respected founder." After he left the office, I told Santos, who was standing nearby, "Notify everyone. Tomorrow night's party. See you there." Santos nodded, his eyes shining with anticipation. 730 days of waiting are finally over. "Yes," I said, finally allowing a real smile to appear on my lips. "This will be a party they will never forget. As we Mexicans say, today's lamb, tomorrow's wolf." The night of the party, I dressed more carefully than usual. I put on that handmade suit I had kept for a long time. I trimmed my beard and even went to the barber shop. My overall appearance was refreshed. When I entered the ballroom, many old friends were surprised by my change. Some did not even recognize me. The ballroom was magnificently decorated with a huge ice sculpture in the center engraved with Victor's new company name, Victor International Foods Limited. Flowers and champagne towers flanked the stage. The guests were wearing formal attire and chatting with glasses in hand. The air was filled with the aroma of champagne and Spanish conversations. Victor was in the center of the crowd in a shiny blue suit. He constantly shook hands and chatted with the guests, his face glowing with victorious smiles. Celeste was wearing an expensive red dress, laughing and talking with a group of rich wives. Her jewelry sparkled brightly. I stood silently in a corner observing everything. Soon, several old friends approached, surprised by my new appearance. "Declan, is that really you?" an old client asked, surprised. "I almost did not recognize you." "It is me," I smiled. "Today is a special day. I wanted to dress appropriately. I heard you sold the company to Victor," he whispered. "Really, just for 4 million pesos? That is ridiculous. I know the company has been struggling lately, but it should be worth at least 10 million. I did not answer directly, just said mysteriously, "You will know the truth." Tonight I looked around and saw that many old farmers and suppliers had come, including Ernesto. He was the leader of the local farmers cooperative, a respected 70-year-old man who was energetic and lively. He was my old friend and partner. Seeing me, he nodded slightly, his eyes full of firm support. 3 days ago, I had met privately with Ernesto and told him my plan. Surprisingly, Victor had also visited Ernesto the day before offering him a favorable contract. He hoped the cooperative would work with him in the long term on the condition that they completely cut business ties with me. Ernesto rejected Victor on the spot, but did not show hostility. He said he needed time to consider it. This made Victor think there was still room for negotiation to win over Ernesto. He even invited him to tonight's party. As 8 p.m. approached, Victor tapped the microphone and announced that the party was officially starting. The hall fell silent, and everyone's attention was focused on the stage. Distinguished guests, dear friends, Victor began his speech, his voice loud and confident. Today is a special day, a day worthy of commemorating. I am pleased to announce that from today, the former Harvell Avocado Export Company will be officially renamed Victor International Foods Ltd. Applause rang out, but not with much enthusiasm. I noticed that many old farmers and suppliers had expressions of perplexity and suspicion. I want to especially thank Declan. Victor continued looking at me hypocritically. His years of teaching gave me today's achievements. Although the company has struggled in recent years, I believe that under my leadership it will return to its peak. Declan, please, raise your glass and toast to your past contributions. Everyone turned to me waiting for my reaction. I slowly raised my glass with a smile, but did not drink. Finally, I want to announce some exciting news. Victor smiled mysteriously. Our company has just secured an exclusive supply contract with the American chain Fresmer, worth over 200 million pesos. This will be our important step towards the international market. This time the applause was a little more enthusiastic, but more whispered discussions followed. Victor raised his glass to new beginnings. Cheers. When I was about to drink the champagne, I walked towards the stage. Victor, my voice was not loud, but it was enough to silence the entire ballroom. Before you celebrate, can I say a few words? Victor was obviously stunned, but quickly regained his smile. Of course, Declan, please. I went up to the stage and looked around. Everyone held their breath waiting for my speech. Perhaps they expected to see a loser's final struggle or a dignified farewell, but I did not look at Victor. Instead, I looked at those old partners who had supported me over the years. I said slowly, I did not come here today to say goodbye. I came to do some cleaning. Victor's smile froze, and Celeste stood up nervously. For years I have believed that integrity is the foundation of business. Continue. But some people, for personal gain, do not hesitate to betray trust and hurt others. Today I want to expose 2 of those people. Victor finally realized that something was wrong and interrupted me. Declan, what are you talking about? We have signed a contract. The company is mine now. Really? I smiled disdainfully and took out a document from my pocket. This is the transfer agreement you made me sign yesterday. But you forgot one thing. According to Mexican commercial law, any agreement involving the transfer of a company must be notarized to be effective. This agreement has not been notarized at all. Victor's face turned pale. But this is just the beginning. I made a gesture, and Rico brought a wheelchair. A young woman with a cast on her right leg was sitting in it. Everyone, this is FIA. I introduced a coffee shop waitress who was injured by a white truck 3 days ago. The police have been looking for the hit-and-run perpetrator. This is slander, Victor shouted immediately. I did not run anyone over, really. I made another gesture, and the big screen in the ballroom lit up. The first video was from the warehouse's back-entrance surveillance, clearly showing Victor and Trevor leaving in the white truck. The timestamp showed 7:48 p.m. on the night of the incident. The second was a hidden recording from the repair shop, showing Victor negotiating with the mechanic to fix the front bumper dent. The third was even more damning. A recording of Victor's conversation with a friend in a bar. That night Trevor drank too much and accidentally ran over a waitress while driving. But do not worry, I have already sorted it out. No one knows about the car repair. The police cannot find us. Thank God that woman was not seriously injured, or we would be in trouble. The chain of evidence was so complete that Victor stood on stage speechless, unable to refute. But that is not all. Continue. Victor is not only a hit-and-run criminal, but also a business fraudster. I gestured to one side of the stage, and old Ernesto went up with a dozen farmer representatives. This is the contract that Victor signed with the Farmers Cooperative 3 days ago. I held up a stack of documents. The price is only half the market rate, but the condition is that the farmers must cut all business ties with me. Ernesto approached the microphone. As a representative of the Farmers Cooperative, I hereby declare that we refuse to cooperate with Victor. He used deception and coercion to try to sign these agreements, which is unacceptable in our culture. We only do business with honest and trustworthy people. The farmers echoed in unison and tore up the contract samples on the spot. Victor's face changed from white to blue. He knew that without the support of these farmers, no avocado export business could be sustained. There is more, I said. Victor has been privately embezzling company funds for the last 2 years for a total of over 16 million pesos. I handed a detailed financial report to a reporter present. This is a financial audit report certified by an independent accounting firm. It proves Victor's systematic embezzlement. Victor finally collapsed and shouted hysterically, "Enough, you despicable liar. You set me up. I set you up." I smiled disdainfully. Who was in my bed with my wife? Who stole my customer lists and trade secrets? Who spread rumors behind my back that I was bankrupt? And who tried to buy my company on the cheap when I was most vulnerable? The entire ballroom was silent. Everyone was shocked by this dramatic turn. Finally, regarding your proud golden contract from Freshmart, I said, looking towards the entrance. A well-dressed American man entered. My friend Derek tonight was wearing a sleek black suit, looking even more authoritative. "Mr. Morales," Derek said in fluent Spanish. "I am Derek Hamilton, Director of International Acquisitions for Freshmart. I regret to inform you that the alleged exclusive invitation you received was a trap from beginning to end used to expose business fraudsters like you." Derek took out a document. "This is proof of your falsified signature trying to use the Harwell Company's reputation to fraudulently obtain contracts. According to U.S. commercial law, this is a serious crime." Victor completely collapsed and fell to the floor. All his dreams, plans, and ambitions turned into bubbles in that moment. He tried to get up and explain, but his legs failed him and he fell again. Derek approached me and handed me a real contract. "Declan, based on your years of honest business practices and quality supply, Freshmart is willing to sign a long-term cooperation agreement with you. Initial amount, 100 million pesos. If the first year goes well, we will expand the order size." The whole place erupted in enthusiastic applause and cheers. Just at that moment, Celeste finally could not hold back. She ran towards Victor and began to tear his suit, cursing him with the most vicious language. "Waste liar. You said you would buy me a villa. You said you would give me the life of a rich lady. Where's my money? Now my 10 million pesos. My parents worked their whole lives to save that money." Victor pushed her weakly. "Shut up. This is all your fault. If you had not seduced me, how would I have betrayed Declan?" I watched coldly as they tore each other apart like rabid dogs. Celeste's voice became shrill and piercing as she retorted, "Seduce you? You chased me first. What did you say back then? You said Declan was finished, that only you could lead the company to success. You said you would give me the best of everything in the world." Every word she uttered was like a slap in Victor's face and in her own foolish past. Her ugly behavior was witnessed by all the guests. The once arrogant couple now looked like two drowning dogs, tearing each other apart. Suddenly, Celeste remembered something and asked in horror, "Wait, what about Gutierrez's money?" Victor's face instantly turned pale as death. "We are finished. Finished. He will kill me." Just as this pair of adulterers were blaming each other, the ballroom doors opened again. 3 fierce-looking men entered, led by Gutierrez himself. He was about 50. He was of strong build, with a long scar on his face and eyes as cold as a snake's. "Victor," said Gutierrez coldly, "I heard you were celebrating a big deal tonight, so I came to see. But now it seems that my 6 million pesos are more important than your business." Victor's face was ashen, his legs weakened, and he even urinated on himself. A dark spot appeared on the front of his pants. "Mr. Gutierrez, please, give me some time. I will definitely pay you back," he pleaded. "Time." Gutierrez laughed mockingly, showing his gold teeth. "You did not mention you needed time when you signed the contract. Do you remember what I said? In my business, there is no such word as bankruptcy, only payment." He made a gesture, and 2 subordinates grabbed Victor's arms as if they were dragging a dead dog and began to take him out. Victor struggled with tears and snot running down his face, begging for help from everyone present. "Save me, someone save me, police. Call the police." No one moved. Everyone watched coldly. In Mexico, people know that there are things the police cannot and will not handle. Mexicans have an old saying, "Debts are paid, it is natural." And with Gutierrez's money, unless you pay in full, there is only death. Seeing that he was about to be dragged away, Victor suddenly looked at me and began to beg for mercy on his knees. "Declan, for the sake of our years of friendship, save me. I know I was wrong. I was really wrong. I can give you back all the money. Please, I beg you." I slowly came down from the stage and stopped next to Victor. I crouched down, leaned close to his ear, and said in a voice only we could hear these 2 years, "You slept with my wife, you spent my money, and you tried to steal my company. Now tell me how it feels." Victor's eyes widened as he finally understood that all this was my plan. You knew all along." He trembled. "From the first day," I said. "You thought I was defeated, but I was just waiting for the perfect moment for revenge." I nodded and took out a silk handkerchief from my pocket. I wiped the tip of my shoe, then threw the handkerchief in Victor's face and stood up. Take him away, I told Gutierrez. He is all yours now. Gutierrez's men dragged Victor out of the ballroom. His last screams gradually faded in the hallway. Meanwhile, several police officers entered and arrested Celeste on charges of conspiracy to commit commercial fraud and hit and run. She shouted claiming she was innocent, but no one believed her. Take this recording, I told the police, handing them a USB drive. This contains evidence that she admits to having knowledge and helping to cover up the hit. And run. Celeste looked at me in disbelief. Declan, you cannot do this to me. We were once husband and wife. Precisely because we were once husband and wife, I said coldly. Your betrayal is even more unforgivable. The atmosphere of the party changed completely. Those who had once doubted and distanced themselves from me now competed to congratulate me. Old Ernesto and other farmer representatives surrounded me, expressing their continued support and trust. When the party was ending, I went back on stage and tapped the microphone again, attracting everyone's attention. Dear friends, what happened tonight may have surprised everyone, but for me this is the moment I have been waiting for 2 years. I looked around with a firm gaze. Some people think tolerance is weakness, that silence is surrender, but in Mexico we have an old saying, the snake in the grass is the most lethal. From today, the Harwell Avocado Export Company will be reborn. I want to thank everyone who supported me during this difficult period, especially Santos, Rico, and Ernesto. Without their loyalty and trust, I would not be standing here. Finally, I want to say to those who once betrayed me or hurt me, I have forgiven you, but I will never forget, because forgiveness is for one's own soul, and not forgetting is to protect oneself from being hurt again. Amid enthusiastic applause, Derek and I officially signed the Freshmart supply contract. The media reporters captured this moment. The next day, the local newspaper's front page featured a photo of our signing. The headline was somewhat exaggerated, Declanjarve the conspiracy and returns as king. Although I found it a bit cheesy, the old partners were happy to see it. The party that night ended in a strange carnival atmosphere. For some people it was a celebration of victory. For others, it was the beginning of a nightmare. For me, it was just the end of 2 years of long waiting and the beginning of a new life. Over the next few weeks, the company's restructuring work proceeded vigorously. I held a general meeting and announced a new equity incentive plan. Santos, Rico, and all the old employees who stayed during the difficult times received shares. I also formed a joint venture with old Ernesto's cooperative, deeply linking our interests to ensure that both parties could benefit. Not only did I compensate Sophia for her medical expenses, but I also established a road safety fund in her name. This generated a tremendous social reputation for the company. Victor's end was miserable. First, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison for hit and run. The day of his release, he was put directly into an unmarked van by Gutierrez's men right at the prison gate. Since then, no one has seen him again. Rumors say he was sent to a remote farm in the south, working 18 hours a day to pay off his debt. But more people believe his body was already buried somewhere in the desert. This is Mexican-style justice. No one would be surprised, and no one would ask. Here, some debts do not need to be settled through the courts. Celeste was fined and given a year of probation for participating in commercial fraud. She lost all her properties and had to return to the countryside with her parents. Her former friends avoided her, and she finally worked as a cashier in a small-town grocery store. About a year later, I was at a groundbreaking ceremony for the company's new project. After the ceremony, old Ernesto approached and handed me a phone with a video. In the video, Celeste was in a noisy rural grocery store. A fat customer was pointing at her nose and scolding her for giving wrong change. Stupid woman, you cannot even do simple calculations. No wonder you ended up like this. Celeste kept her head down, constantly apologizing. I am sorry. I will calculate again. Her face had lost its former pride. The designer clothes were long gone, replaced by cheap work uniforms, and her hair had lost its former shine. Ernesto smiled and said, "This is karma, boss." I looked at that pathetic woman in the video with an expressionless face. I calmly returned the phone to Ernesto, saying only she deserved it. Then I turned around and walked away without looking back. 3 months later, at an industry dinner, I met Catalina, owner of a logistics company. She was a fiery Mexican beauty in her 30s, intelligent and capable. She had carved out her own territory in this male-dominated industry. When an arrogant American competitor publicly mocked my past failures, Catalina not only clinked her glass with me, but also went directly to the American and said coldly, "In Mexico, it is not about who has more money. It is about fists and friends. You have neither." Then she turned to me and said, "Come on, let's have a real tequila. The drinks here are not strong enough." We left shoulder to shoulder, leaving the American with a bewildered face. After leaving the place, Catalina looked at me with a touch of admiration in her eyes. I have heard about your story. To deal with wolves, you cannot use methods to deal with sheep. You did the right thing. This comment moved me because it articulated what I felt in the depths of me. On the battlefield of business, kindness needs to have fangs, or it will just be crushed mercilessly. Catalina later became my girlfriend, then my wife. She was much better than Celeste, not only beautiful, but she also had her own career and opinions. Most importantly, she had principles and limits, knowing what true loyalty and partnership meant. Our wedding was simple, inviting only our closest friends. Ernesto was my best man, and he said something in his speech that I still vividly remember. Life's setbacks are like a strong coffee, bitter at first, but they make you more alert. Declan demonstrated with his actions that true strength is not about having no scars. It is about being able to get up and fight even with scars. Today, 3 years later, my company has become one of the largest avocado exporters in Mexico. We have established long-term partnerships with multiple international supermarket chains. Last year, our annual revenue exceeded 400 million pesos, 10 times more successful than the grand plan that Victor boasted about. Looking back at those days, it is now like a long nightmare. Fortunately, I finally woke up. In Mexico, we have an old saying, bow your head for years just to deliver a fatal blow. This is the true art of revenge. I used 730 days to turn their heaven into a hell. Some people do not deserve forgiveness. They only deserve an end written by their own greed and stupidity. In your life, has there been a moment that made you decide to stop being a good person? Have you ever been betrayed by the person you trusted the most? Like me, you chose to explode immediately or wait silently for the perfect moment for revenge. Please share your story in the comments. If this ending gave you a sense of satisfaction, please like this video. Use the trending feature to support our channel and let more people see this story. As the saying goes, good is rewarded with good and evil with evil. It is not that there is no retribution. It is just that the time has not yet come.